cheesy casserole bread, and I'm actually going to healthy it up a little bit by using mostly whole grain flour that I have ground in it. We are going to be using 1 cup of organic all-purpose flour with this, just because when you're using all whole grains, some breads just don't have a lot of flavor if you use all whole wheat. So if you kind of mix it up a little bit and you use a little white flour, it takes on the flavor variation so much better. So this is actually something you do not need a mixer for. As far as a big mixer, you can just use a hand mixer, and then you're also just going to do all this in a bowl. And then we're going to let that go through a couple stages here. So let's get started. I need half a cup, or you will need half a cup of lukewarm water and half a cup of lukewarm milk. I just took some milk out, measured it out, and put it in a little saucepan and just barely heated it. You just want it like just a little warmer than like bath water or something, like just really low temperature. And then I'm actually going to start in my tablespoon of yeast. And you don't have to do this if you're using instant dry yeast, but it does help because we're not kneading this recipe. This is a no knead, just a stirring type of bread recipe that we just mix it in to give it a little bit of a head start. Just gonna mix that in. And now I'm actually going to put in 2/3 a cup of softened butter. Just gonna dump that in there. You can just leave that out on the counter, your sticks of butter, until it softens enough, just so that you can use your hand mixer. Okay. And then we're gonna have 2 eggs in there and 1 cup of all-purpose flour. And that is all that we're gonna do right here. I'm just gonna turn the mixer on and give this a good mixing up. Okay, so I just got that mixed up. There's still some little clumps of butter in there, but that's totally fine because it's all gonna blend together. And after you've done that for about 30 seconds, you're gonna add the fresh flour that you have milled. You can use all-purpose completely in this recipe, but try to healthy it up if you can with some whole wheat flour. And I've actually ground spelt flour, and that's what I'm gonna be using. So 2 cups of spelt flour, and then I'm just gonna put in a teaspoon of salt. Just get him out of there. Half a teaspoon of black pepper. And 1 cup of organic shredded cheddar cheese. And you can shred your own cheese if you want to on that. Tastes better that way. And then I'm just gonna mix this together with the hand mixer for 2 minutes. Okay, so we have this mixed together for about 2 minutes and with your hand mixer. Now, if you don't have a hand mixer, you can totally do that by hand. You're just going to need to do it about 4 minutes. And if your butter's really soft, it's really not a big deal to do this whole recipe by hand. And then once you have that mixed up, you just want to scrape down the excess dough from the sides here. And then I'm actually just going to put this in a warm place in the kitchen. If you're cooking something, you can put it near the oven, or you can put it in your oven if you want to just turn it on and then turn it back off just to get it barely warm. And that's going to sit in there for 30 minutes. Okay, so the bread has been resting in the oven that I had off, just a warm place, for 30 minutes. And so I'm actually going to just stir this about 25 strokes. Or so. We're just mainly incorporating some air, and you can tell by the texture, it's real stretchy, that it is forming the gluten strands, which is what will give it a rise, even though we didn't knead the bread technically. We just did a stir dough. So just gonna kind of stir this around, and you just want to kind of fold it over a few times. And once we get this done, we're actually going to put it into a greased casserole dish. I have a cast iron enamel one here, but you can also use a glass casserole dish. And I'm not going to need the lid on it when I bake it, so I'm just going to get that stirred up. And then you're just going to transfer this dough into the greased casserole. Get it all out here. Oh, it actually smells really good. This is a super easy recipe, and this goes great with a dinner meal or anything like that. So, well, once I get it in here, I'm just going to kind of smooth it out a little bit. It doesn't have to have anything real pretty or fancy because it is a casserole bread. It's going to look similar to a sourdough. So once we get that kind of smoothed out, I'm going to sit this in my oven, and I just turned it on 350 for like a minute to get it really warm in there, and then I turned the oven off, and we're going to let this rise in that warm oven for 40 minutes, and then we're going to preheat the oven to 375 while the bread's in there, and bake it about 40 to 45 minutes or until you can tap it and it sounds hollow and it's browned. Okay, so I just got this out of the oven. Mine had to bake 45 minutes, but what you're looking for is this brown color, and when you tap it, I don't know if you can hear that, sounds hollow. So anyway, we're just gonna turn this out onto the cooling rack. Okay, so I just turned this out on the cooling rack, and as you can hear maybe a little better on this, it's hollow. And it's actually going to be something that you would serve kind of in wedges like a cornbread or a cake. That's how we do it. And it is absolutely delicious with dinner. And I enjoyed adapting this recipe from the original, which was 3 cups of all-purpose flour, and healthying it up a little bit by adding the whole wheat flour and getting the measurements right on everything so that I could transition it to a healthier recipe. So if you have some recipes that call for all-purpose flour and you would like for me to do those recipes and healthy them up for you, I would love to do that. And thank you so much for watching the video, and please subscribe to my channel.